There. So I got the amazing opportunity to interview our very own Jen Wert. I've had her for two classes now, the past two semesters, and I've gotten the amazing opportunity to interact with her in those two. I admire the most about her is her humbleness, and I felt the main reason I picked her is I felt that her leadership style, which seems to be more introverted and a little more calm per se, is a lot more similar to something I could see myself being, a style that I could see myself having. Of course, not exactly, as every leader is unique, as is their style, but just the current leaders that I have interacted with and I look up to, I enjoy them and I feel that their style is really amazing and influential. However, I just didn't see myself being exactly that kind of leader. So I really wanted to break the mold and interview someone who had a leadership style that was very different from what I've seen so far. And I just wanted to gain a new perspective in that regard. Another reason is she's a woman, and women in leadership are important. And being that I am one, I wanted to interview someone who shared that trait with me. Another thing I really enjoyed is just her student-oriented focus. She really takes into account what we need, even before what she needs herself. I interviewed Jen at a Starbucks at the one at the Hub actually, and one of the first things that we did is we grabbed a cup of coffee, and she actually bought my coffee even though she was taking the time out of her really busy schedule as a PhD student to buy me a coffee, and that was one of those moments where it just confirmed everything I had previously believed and thought about her, where she's just really thoughtful and takes everyone's feelings into account, kind of takes you under your wing. And so I thought that just spoke volumes about her. But some things I started to learn was that she actually came from a religious background. So she was just very involved in her church. And one of her biggest mentors in life was her pastor. And this is kind of where she got her start in leadership, even though in the moment she didn't really know that that was happening. Um, so, another thing that we really talked about was just how intentional she is about self care. I think a lot of times, I know we're all really guilty of it as college students or ever being in college, that sometimes we're so focused on the academics and on others that we forget to take care of ourselves. And I think it's really neat that she's able to balance, the strong emphasis on helping people, but, not forgetting to take care of herself. Because there's pastor actually pointed it out to her that she indeed was a leader and it didn't have to look a certain way. So this transformation of her being someone really only behind the scenes to then taking a little bit more of the front and center stage, when leading a large group of freshman girls in a Bible study group. So that transformation is just part of the leadership characteristics that define her, and I think a lot of us will undergo that. I think every leader has transformation, and so that was one of the things that really resonated with me. Um, I've said it before, but just her being really authentic and humble, and just being vulnerable. Those are three things that she displays really well, and she looks up to people who display it really well. So I guess it's something that she really mirrors. I think these are important because this is the direction that she believes, and I guess I also believe that leadership will move to. These individuals, leaders, are not here to save us or be perfect, but we want to see people who are okay to make mistakes and say that they do, admit that they have made the mistakes, because we're all human. Being perfect is impossible. And so that authenticity factor is really important and something that she values and has herself. Another point that we discussed was just working for something bigger than yourself. The world's pretty big, and even though you may not think that your small action is making a difference, it absolutely is. We have to choose to be leaders every single day with every single action. And by doing these and making these small efforts, it sums up to be a lot when everyone carries them out. The two things that stood out to me the most once the interview had ended was Jen's high level of self awareness. She understands that she's not perfect at everything, none of us are. And so, just really knowing what your strengths are and working on them and building them is something that leadership is going to have to do in the future. I think working in teams and relying on each other, relying on each other's strengths makes us stronger all together. So just trying not to be the one man show of I have to do everything and I have to be great at everything is hopefully something that is just in the past. We won't see it in the future anymore. And this is really realistic, I think. It's a very realistic perspective, and it's something comforting for me because I know that sometimes I guess I get caught up in what I'm not great at when I should be devoting a lot more time and effort to what I am good at, and realizing that, that makes me unique. That makes me unique as a person, as a leader. And it's okay not to be good at everything. There'll be others who are good at the stuff that I'm not great at, and vice versa. And so having that self-awareness also awards her level of humility. Last things we talked about was some of her struggles, leaning back to that vulnerability characteristic at this point. Jen suffered from imposter syndrome, so just not feeling like she belonged, especially in the world of leadership. I think I can definitely relate to that. I feel sometimes my characteristics don't lend to the typical picture of what leadership looks like, but I'm glad to know that I'm not alone in the struggle. Many of us feel that way at some point or another, whether it's in leadership or another aspect of life. And I believe going through these struggles, although hard in the moment, really working through them once you come out the other end makes you more confident, and gives you a perspective that's different than others who haven't gone through those struggles. I feel that way about life too. The perspective with women in leadership, she really seeks out to talk to individuals who can balance careers and family, being women and being moms and aunts. So she really seeks them out, which I thought was really interesting to point out a specific population. But they're women, and she and I are both women, so there are things that we go through that men or other genders may not be able to completely understand. So being really purposeful about who you talk to. Relationships are key to her leadership style. She's had a lot of mentors in her life, and they give her the support she needs to feel confident. I think that's something that we can all learn from in leadership, but also in life. We all need that support system, and so why should leadership be any different? I left the interview with was everyone is a leader in their own way. So leadership does not need to look like a specific person. It does not need to have certain characteristics. And so everyone practices leadership, whether they think they do or not, or they know it or not. And so just refining leadership skills, characteristics, qualities, all those factors that attribute to it, and just understanding your relationship with them makes you a stronger leader in whatever environment you are leading. Another thing was just back to the self-awareness, is just knowing how you work best. And it's okay if you can't balance 50 projects at one time, or you do better with 50 projects at one time, or you do better with deadlines or without deadlines. This diversity and variety makes us better leaders in certain aspects or certain situations. And so knowing that it's okay that I can't balance 50 things at once, and I work better just focusing on a few things at one time, and that's okay and doesn't make me a failure, it doesn't make me less less admirable or less valued as a leader is something that is very, very uplifting for me. It was a great takeaway from this. Everyone has a unique gift that should be shared. So this goes back to valuing diversity, understanding that, the humility factor, and understanding that we all are really good at some things, not so hot at others, and it's okay. So no need to stress out about it. And even if you aren't great at it, you could always work on it as well. But just knowing your strengths and weaknesses is vital, and everyone has different ones. So